Folks, welcome into That Betting Show for April 23rd, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Game 7's on the horizon we'll talk about today. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. But let's take a look first, Teddy. Hot topics of the day in the NBA. Bucks give an epic beatdown to the Pistons. It continued last night. You might have thought you had a little bit of fight in the first half with the Pistons, even into the second half in the third quarter. But the cream rose to the top, Teddy. What a runaway in this series.
I mean, it really was. And look, the Pistons led 82-78 in that ballgame. Midway through the third, there's about 5 minutes left in the third. Detroit's up 4. You blink. All right, you go to the bathroom. You go outside, have a smoke, drink a beer, come back. In the middle of the fourth quarter, the Bucks are up by 25. It was a 37-8 run in that ballgame between the middle of the third and the middle of the fourth. And what do we talk about here? Right here on That Betting Show, we said when a team is done, they're done. The Pistons, they fought the good fight, 2.5 quarters. But when they were done, once the energy came out of them and they deflated, it was all Milwaukee all the rest of the way. Bucks backers thrilled, and the books not happy with Milwaukee right now. Books got absolutely destroyed on this series. It was the worst series of any for sports books here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, how about it, Teddy, coming up? We'll get to it, obviously, when the series gets here, but the Celtics and the Bucks going to meet up round 2. Both teams swept out their opponents in the first round, headed for a pretty good series. They will have an extended layoff to get rested and ready. And I know, Teddy, especially from Milwaukee side, getting a key guy back from injury, maybe even getting a key guy back from injury in the Boston Celtics with Marcus Smart as well. Looking forward to that series, no less. If we take a look at an early indicator, Teddy, obviously we know the Milwaukee Bucks, best record in the NBA, cleaning house right now. But those Celtics coming on late here, Teddy, looking good.
Yeah, they sure are. And, of course, we have the opener for Saturday's Game 1 of the Bucks and the Celtics. Milwaukee minus 7.5 at home, total 224.5 at the opener. Bucks minus 250 for the series. So the Bucks got burnt pretty bad by Milwaukee in round 1. They are not underpricing the Bucks in round 2. And you can clearly see it from the series price and for the price in Game 1. The Celtics not getting all that much credit for sweeping the Pacers, the way Milwaukee's getting credit for sweeping the Pistons.
There we go. Looking forward. We'll set those series up as they come along. The Jazz will continue to play, Teddy, for at least one more day. Nice rise up there in Salt Lake City. The Jazz propelling themselves in the fourth quarter to a tune of a 31-12 quarter for a victory. Donovan Mitchell led the way, Teddy, with 31 and 7 in the Game 4 victory. Now, the Rockets, when you look at some of those numbers, 17-46, it's okay. But, Teddy, they started out hot and then faded down the stretch.
Oh, they were hot for 3 quarters, making me crazy. I don't bet a lot of teams down 0-3, but I had to play on Utah last night. And for much of the game, they were the better team, but Houston kept draining threes. They were 15 of 29 from beyond the arc. And then they closed out the game 2 of 17. That's when Utah went on their monster fourth quarter run to take control of the ball game. You say, all right, the Rockets didn't hit shots from the perimeter down the stretch. Well, their bench didn't play particularly well either, and that's putting it mildly. Houston bench production last night, 5 points. 10 rebounds, 0 assists combined. That's not going to get the job done. Rockets looked flat last night. I thought they might be. They've not, again, that's a team that has no history of sweeping anybody. In the James Harden era, they didn't get the job done in that regard again last night.
Yeah, 4 games that are in the NBA tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about 3 of those a little bit later here on That Betting Show. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball here. Injury and frustration starting to build a little bit in Philadelphia. Now, look, still in first place, 12-10, but you saw some of it boil over. The bats didn't come around in Colorado. Certainly a tough spot traveling from Colorado to face the New York Mets yesterday. A banged-up lineup, didn't bring any offense, only 1 run and 3 hits in the game last night. And we talked about it yesterday, Teddy, on That Betting Show. Steven Matt's first time around, not so good versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Much better than this time. Bryce Harper gets tossed. The team has some words for the press. We'll see how they respond today with the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff in Philadelphia, you can't like these quotes. This one from Bryce Harper after getting tossed out. Hey, I respect the fact that Harper gets it, that he shouldn't be doing this. Quote, it just can't happen. In a game like that against the Mets, division rival, things like that, it just can't happen. For myself and this team as well. We're a better team with me in the lineup, and I got to stay in that game. These games matter. They matter now. They matter in September. So Harper's saying the right thing. But Arrieta, we need him in right field. I don't care how bad the umpire is. He wasn't great for either side. I'm out there trying to make pitches. He misses some calls. So what? We need Bryce out there. There's a lot of pressure in Philadelphia right now. The Phillies, at least at the current moment, not responding to that pressure particularly well.
Yeah, it should be fun to see how it goes along the summer because you got a lot of big name guys in that locker room. We'll see how it flows through. And keep in mind, I mean, it's only April. So if you have a little bit of a fissure in the locker room, winning cures all, Teddy, as we like to say. So we'll see how that goes throughout the summer. But let's get to it. Segment number 2, overnight line movers, Teddy. The best place on the internet to check out those line moves is at SBRodds.com, right through sportsbookreview.com. We got a couple baseball games we're going to hit. Lopez getting in a little bit of love on Tuesday, Teddy. When we take a look at SBRodds.com, Miami and Cleveland going to tee it up tonight. Opens up offshore as high as minus 236, gets down to around 215. Now I'm also seeing offshore those numbers right around the the 200 level. BetOnline.ag minus 200, Pinnacle minus 198. Lopez and Carrasco tonight in Indy.
The betting market's like Miami. Look, and I talked to a wise guy friend of mine earlier in the week talking about Miami. Oh, no, there's tons of value in Miami. Watch those young starters. They're all really good. There's definitely some wise guy support for this team and Pablo Lopez. He's 1-3 with a 5.85, but he's coming off a nice effort against the Cubs. Last time out, gave up only 2 runs on 5 hits in 5 innings. The metrics in that stat were good. No surprise then. The 23-year-old untested guy, what do I say? MLB markets bet on potential. Lopez has potential as a $2 dog. There's considerable support for a Miami team that, frankly, can't hit their way out of a wet paper bag in early season play.
Teddy, also with Pinnacle dropping Pittsburgh, a little bit of information here. Arizona versus the Pittsburgh Pirates tonight. About 63% of the dollars coming in on Pittsburgh. That line's dropping. 131, I'm checking right now. Pinnacle, Teddy, at SBRodds.com, dropping down to 110. Chris now has them almost at a dead even pick 'em here. So interesting movement here based on looking at a bounce-back game. Pirates, 7.5 is a total. Weaver versus Williams in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 2 issues we're talking about here. Number 1 is that the markets are showing support for Luke Weaver right now. Here's the quote after his last start, and it was a dominant effort. 5 scoreless innings at Atlanta, season best 9 strikeouts in that ball game. The quote from manager Terry Lavello, Luke threw the ball extremely well. We want each starter to build on one start to the next and continue to know that they set the tone for us. Now it's back-to-back quality starts for Luke Weaver, hence a little bit of market support for Arizona. On the other hand, for Pittsburgh, I'm not going to say it's a devastating injury to Nick Birdie, one of the relievers, but the way that it happened, he's just throwing a pitch, and next thing you know, he's in agony. His biceps are off his arm. Clint Hurdle just takes the breath right off you. Joe Musgrave started the game last night. It's really quiet around the whole clubhouse. It's not easy to watch anybody go through that, especially a teammate. Pittsburgh a little bit deflated, and there's a lot of support for Luke Weaver, hence all the Arizona money in early betting action today.
Take a quick look at another game here. The Braves and the Reds, Teddy. So the Braves open up as a slight dog, now move to a slight favorite. It's Gausman versus Gray. Should we see some fireworks in that small ballpark, Teddy? Should be a good one tonight between these two.
Yeah, and the betting market's not worried about the fact that the Reds ranked dead last in the National League in batting average. They're hitting below the Mendoza line for this season. What do they like? They like Gausman. Pitched a gem last time out, 3 hits, only 2 runs against Arizona, struck out a season-high 10. Opponents hitting just 141 against him through his first 3 starts. That's what they're betting on. There's not a lot of love for Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray cost a lot of people a lot of money last year. Gausman is the guy who the markets are hot on, hence the early money for Cincinnati.
Yeah, a couple fun games there, Major League Baseball, Teddy. But our eyes, the attention, are going to come right here on the NBA tonight, starting with our triple header here on that betting show. The Sixers look to close the door on the Nets. Jared Dudley welcomed into the Wells Fargo Center tonight. Game's going to tip off at 8 o'clock live, as we said, from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. Nets, 46-40 against the number in all line games this year, 30-28 against the number as a dog, and 21-16 against the number as a road dog. Sixers, Teddy, 41-45 against the number on the season, 30-32 as a favorite, and only 21-20 against the number at home. It's closeout night in Philly. Do they get it done, Teddy?
Well, that's an excellent question because, look, a lot of times in these closeout games, what did we say earlier in the show? When a team is done, they're done. Are the Nets done? Because the Nets have shown a lot of fight in this series, and I haven't seen necessarily Philly got the job done in Game 4. Do they have the mentality to close out Game 5 and win by margin in that contest? Look, there's a lot of problems for the Nets. The Nets just can't match up very well, either in the backcourt or the frontcourt. Ben Simmons has owned Brooklyn in this series. Embiid has done whatever he's wanted to when healthy in the game. Jared Allen's not stopping anybody. D'Angelo Russell's under 40% shooting for the series. Joe Harris just 3 of 16 from beyond the arc in the series, and he's a guy who led the NBA in three-point shooting percentage during the regular season. Brooklyn not likely to have Ed Davis tonight. He hasn't played much in the series. He's the one guy who was impactful in game one, and he's the one guy who, not the one guy, but he gives them added depth in the front court where they've been getting crushed on the boards. The Davis injury matters for Brooklyn. So all these pointers point towards Philly. I don't know how mature this Sixers team is. We saw some of that from Houston last night where, no, we're not ready to, and winning by margin against a Nets squad that they've shown a lot of fight. Spencer Dinwiddie, quote, for a lot of us, this is our first time playing big minutes in the playoffs. We're right there in game 4. We feel like we should have won. We weren't saying this is a learning experience when we won game 1, so we can't fall on that now. We need to try to pull off something incredible. The Nets have been in these games, and game 2 got away in the second half. Game 3 got away in the third quarter. Game 4, they led by 7 with 5 minutes left and let that one get away. Those are a concern, certainly. Philly is the better of these two teams. And I'm not involved in the game tonight. Not side, not total. But frankly, I'm not even that close. I don't know if the Nets are capable of hanging tough for 4 quarters. I think they'll be in the game for a while. I worry about Brooklyn's to hang once Philly makes their run. When a team is done, they're done. And we may see some of that from the Nets tonight.
Not a lot of playoff experience from the core guys. I mean, Jimmy Butler, is taken set aside. But if you're looking at, Joel Embiid and also Ben Simmons, Teddy, when you're looking at this game and just from a perspective in Philadelphia, everybody's already anticipating, I can't wait to play the Toronto Raptors. You hear Joel Embiid in his, coming out of a van, eating Shake Shack, having a couple burgers, saying the series is over. Do you think that, turns over what this team is expecting, the crowd is expecting, the city's just expecting, it's going to be like a coronation tonight, let's move on to the second round? Do you think they'll be able to handle that? Or how would you approach that from a gambling perspective, saying, you know what, these guys better close it out on the court because they're talking a big game right now?
It has everything to do with the Nets' perimeter shooting. If Dinwiddie's hitting shots. Karis LeVert, 51 points the last 2 games, and the Nets still haven't covered either one of those contests, but the point spread different tonight. Obviously, they lose by the margin they did in game 4. They'll cover the number here. But, for the Nets, they need Russell, Dinwiddie, LeVert, Harris. All these guys have to hit shots from downtown. And if they do, they can hang in this game. They can win the game. If they have multiple guys draining threes, that's the Nets game. Philly's done a nice job of closing out on those threes the last couple of contests. And defensively, the Nets have had no answers for anything Philadelphia's done in this series. That definitely concerns me here in a game 5 setting, in a closeout setting. Again, I'm not playing the game, but the more I think about it, maybe I would get on Philly before I took Brooklyn, because I worry about that one big run taking the Nets out of the game, whether that run comes, anytime after halftime. If Philly goes big, it might be ball game.
There you go, Teddy. I like the way you're thinking there with the Sixers. Take a look at the game tied at 2. No closeout tonight, Teddy. No closeout between the Spurs and the Nuggets as each one of these teams tries to gain the upper hand and take a 3-2 series lead. Nuggets favored by 5.5, total of 211. Moneyline split plus 195, minus 235. 9:30 tonight live from the Pepsi Center. We take a look at the Spurs, 45-39 on the season against the number. 19-14, Teddy, against the number as a dog, and 20-21 against the spread on the road this year. If we flip it over to the Nuggets, 44-42 against the spread on the season, 24-16 against the spread as a home team this year, and 26-17 at home this year overall. I don't know why that just came up on the screen there, but case in point, Teddy, Denver, pretty good home team cashing those tickets.
Yeah. I mean, look, coming into this series, there was a lot of concern. There were 2 mainstream narratives for this series. One was San Antonio is a bad road team. The other is Denver never wins in San Antonio. So the Spurs have certainly not been a bad road team. They won game 1. They held a 19-point lead in game 2 before Jamal Murray went nuts and beat them. Not going to say single-handedly, but beat them. But they played fairly well both games in Denver. Of course, the Nuggets, who couldn't win, they can't win in San Antonio. They haven't won there in 5 years. They won there in game 4, and they won there fairly resoundingly. It's twice now in the last 3 games that in the second half of these contests, the Denver Nuggets have absolutely taken it to San Antonio on the defensive end of the court. That's a big concern, obviously, for Popovich. We love Popovich. He's a guy who can make adjustments from one game in the series to the next. But we've seen it now twice in 3 games where San Antonio, when they need buckets during crunch time, they haven't been able to get them. We saw, obviously, a adjustment to the starting lineup from Denver with Torrey Craig moving in the lineup, replacing Will Barton. The thought process, Craig, a superior defender, can hang with DeRozan. and Harris can hang with Derek White, and that's the two best perimeter defenders for Denver on the floor at the same time from the get-go. Certainly has worked fairly well thus far. But, all that being said, this has been the only true zigzag series so far where, every game's been zigzag. And the zig points here towards the Spurs plus the points. As I said, they've already hung in Denver twice with a straight-up win. I am very worried that the adjustments Mike Malone made are going to send San Antonio home. So while the zigzag said takes the Spurs, not with my money.
Referendum night today on Russell Westbrook as he heads to Portland to try to stave off elimination, go home early once again. If you're not checking out SBRodds.com, you're not doing it right. Teddy, within the last 2 hours, we've moved from a 3 for the favorite of the Portland Trailblazers up to a 4 now. Over under in that game, 221. Moneyline split plus 135, minus 155. 10:30 late night action tonight. Thunder 43-43 against the number on the season. 12-8 against the spread as a dog, and 10-8 against the spread as a road dog. Blazers 48-38 against the number at home this year. Teddy 32-20 against the spread as a favorite, and 26-17 against the number at home. Is he going home, Teddy? And will he give an angry press conference if he does?
Next question.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a joke. I like the Russell Westbrook jokes. But by the way, we are seeing the first 4.5 just popping up right now as we record. There is clearly a lot of market support for Portland today, and it's not just public money, this is wise guy money as well. This game's been about this series has been about Portland's defense, which coming into the series, what was the mainstream narrative? The mainstream narrative is the Blazers defense stinks. They lost their center. Enes Kanter's going to get lit up, and OKC's going to do whatever they want in the paint. Well, OKC's been held to less than 100 points in all 3 losses. They shot 37% from the floor on Sunday. Russell Westbrook has been struggling in the postseason for the 3rd straight year. This is a Thunder team that has a recent history of early exits. Billy Donovan, quote, "We're down 3-1. All we can do now is watch the video, try to make some corrections and adjustment, and get ready for Game 5. That's really all we can do." That's not the quote I want. Terry Stotts, on the other hand, talking about the defensive effort in Game 4 to get the road win. Quote, "We need one more game like that." Not done yet. And of course, plenty of chirping and nonsense between these two squads. But you could look at the series and nothing more than shooting percentages, and really nothing more than shooting percentages from 3-point range. OKC 30% from beyond the arc, Portland 41% from beyond the arc, and that's been the difference in this series. The quotes from the Blazers I like. Damian Lillard, "We're not going to go crazy on the referees, get into shouting matches with the Thunder. We're going to focus on the things we need to do to win the game." Talking about the distraction from Game 4, I was proud our team stuck with that. Total bettors, note this quote from Paul George. What's the solution for OKC in Game 5? Quote, Paul George, "Score more points." Honestly, that's what we have to do. So if you like the Thunder tonight, there may be some correlation with the over. And even if you don't like the Thunder, there may be some correlation with the over in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if these two offenses are rolling all night long. And this one turns out to be a very entertaining nightcap.
Yeah, I like those quotes from the Portland Trailblazers, Teddy, showing, maturity, saying, you know what, it's not so much about the other team. Let's just handle our own business, worry about ourselves, because you don't want to get up in those shouting matches with Russ and going back and forth with the referees. They have a chance to close it out. It'll be interesting to see if they get it done tonight. Off the mic segment, Teddy, here in Philadelphia, we're primarily Flyers fans, not NHL fans. But the one thing I enjoy through sports, whether or not you're actually betting on the game or not, is a Game 7 winner-take-all type of environment. And watching from afar, if you like these teams, a la the Golden Knights, Teddy, live in Las Vegas, versus the Sharks or the Bruins and the Leafs, it's much more stressful. But for me, watching from the outside, I would love to see a tight game coming down to the 3rd period. I would even more like to see, Teddy, an overtime Game 7 here. Just because you don't bet these games doesn't mean you can't enjoy them. I'm looking forward to both of these tonight, Teddy.
Well, Vegas had an overtime in Game 6. In fact, they had 2 overtimes in Game 6 and still couldn't put the biscuit in the basket. And now they're in trouble. This is a game priced near pick'em for Vegas and San Jose. The issue for San Jose coming in the series was goaltending. Goaltending's been there the last 2 games. That's how they've rallied back from the 3-1 deficit. And I'm telling you, the team that loses the game, they're up 3-1, and they go on the road and have a flat game in game 5, and they come home and have the must-win game in game 6, and they lose that, and now you got to go on the road and win a game 7. I worry about the Knights. I'm telling you, last spring, I've never seen anything like it in my life in terms of a city who had no history with hockey coming together to love a hockey team. The Golden Knights were insane in terms of support for around the city of Las Vegas last year. Really was like nothing I've ever seen in my life. This year, I worry about tonight. I don't think it's going to come. If I'm playing, it'd be San Jose, not Las Vegas.
2-7 tonight, Teddy. Another Game 7 already set up for tomorrow night in the NHL. Good times ahead here, right here on That Betting Show. Thanks for tuning in for April 23rd, 2019, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Savransky. Once again, give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside BP. We'll be back tomorrow to cover all of the nonsense or shenanigans that took place in the NHL and NBA tonight. And look forward, and don't forget, folks, right here on the channels, we'll set you up on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and Thursday for a little bit of draft coverage. We'll have some fun with that. Take care, enjoy, and hopefully you cash those bets tomorrow.